Testing, 1, 2. There we go. If everyone could take their seats, we are going to get started momentarily. All right, well, it is 6 o'clock on the dot, and we are nothing if not prompt. So welcome, everyone. Good evening. My name is Jeannine Sharp, and I'm the president and CEO of the Oro Valley Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Whether you're joining us in person or tuning in online, we are glad you're here. Civic engagement matters, and taking the time to show up, listen, and stay informed is one of the most important things that we can do as a community. I also want to thank our candidates. Running for public office and choosing to serve is no small task. It takes time, energy, money, and a real commitment to this community, and we appreciate each and every one of you for stepping forward. Along those same lines, I'd like to recognize our current council and mayor. We have with us tonight Mayor Joe Winfield, council members Mary Murphy, Mo Green, and Josh Nicholson. So if you could just please rise, thank you for being here and serving our community. We'll start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise if you are able. The flag's right over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are so grateful to the Oro Valley Church of the Nazarene for hosting us tonight and for providing a space that allows our community to come together in this way. I'd like to invite Pastor Craig Coulter to come up and give our invocation.
Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, thank you for your goodness and your grace in our lives. We are blessed more than we deserve. We thank you for the blessing of being a part of this incredible town of Oro Valley. We just take just a moment, Lord, to thank you for the candidates that are up here on this stage and those that are running for mayor as well, Lord. Thank you for their servants' hearts. We pray your blessing on each one of them. Then, Heavenly Father, we take also a moment to remember our military. Many of them are away from their families right now. We just pray, Lord, that you put a hedge of protection around them, that you'll keep them safe. When it's their time, they would come home to us. Lord, be with them. And Heavenly Father, we thank you for tonight. We pray that all that is said and done would be for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Craig. Before we get started, I want to briefly share a little context about the Chamber of Commerce. The Oro Valley Chamber of Commerce is not a government organization. We are a business organization supported by dues-paying members. Our focus is supporting a strong, vibrant business community because when businesses succeed, so does our town. We do work closely with the town of Oro Valley, including an operating agreement for services we provide. That partnership is important, and it reflects a shared goal of supporting the overall health and success of our community. We do not endorse candidates. Our role is to provide opportunities like this forum, so the community can hear directly from those running for office and make informed decisions. A few quick housekeeping items before we begin. We ask that you please turn off your cell phones, refrain from applause, call-outs, or interruptions during the forum so that we can keep things moving and ensure everyone has an equal opportunity to be heard. Signs are not permitted, and we ask that everyone be respectful of the space and of one another. If there are any disruptions, we may ask individuals to step outside so the forum may continue. We appreciate your help in keeping this a respectful and productive environment. And now, I am pleased to introduce our moderator for this evening, Jeannine Sharp Mason. No relation, as far as we are aware. Jeannine is a Tucson native and the founder of J9 Brandworks, where she works in brand strategy, partnerships, and event production. She brings experience across corporate, nonprofit, and community initiatives, and we are so grateful to have her guiding tonight's conversation. Jeannine, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Kristen, for the introduction. I want to thank everybody for being here today and for our candidates as well. Before we begin, I'll walk through how the council portion of the forum will work. Each candidate has randomly drawn a number backstage to determine their speaking order. We'll begin with opening statements, and each candidate will have 2 minutes. We will then move into a series of questions. The order of responses will rotate, so each candidate has the opportunity to answer first. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to each question. Candidates did not receive these questions in advance. At the conclusion of the questions, each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement, and those will be given in reverse order of the opening statements. So let's begin with opening statements. We'll start today with Rhonda Pena.
Hi, thank you. I want to thank the OV Chamber and all of you tonight for attending and spending your time with us. I'm Rhonda Pena, and I'm a second-generation Tucsonan, and I've lived in Oro Valley for 15 years. I have a Bachelor of Science in Business Management and a Department of Arizona Education Substitute Teaching Certificate. I spent 29 years in the financial services industry in commercial and retail banking, and I currently work as the Pima County Deputy Director for Workforce Development, and that also includes oversight of the Keno Veterans Workforce Center. Currently, on a professional level, I serve as a board member for the Tucson Airport Authority. So during my time in banking, I spent a lot of time in Oro Valley. I managed the Wells Fargo First Avenue branch, and then I had the opportunity to open the Tangerine and First Avenue branch. And in doing so, I fell in love with this community. I learned a lot about the residents that live here. I learned about their financial needs, and I learned a lot about what's important to them. I also learned about the employer community that we depend on, right, for our revenues. And so collectively, the beauty of the community and what it has to offer, I decided to run for council. So I served on council from 2016 to 2020. My experience in the private sector and also in the government sector has allowed me to have experience that's very important. I do believe that the priorities are the same. Public safety, we need to maintain our resources. Budget accountability is going to help us sustain our budgets to pay for our premium core services. And strategic economic development. Those are the things that we need to maintain. It's important to me to make good government decisions. So I will continue that just like I did in my first service on the Town of Oro Valley Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Next, Rosa Daly.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rosa Daly, and I have been an Oro Valley resident and community advocate for the past 20 years. I have met and befriended more people in this community than anywhere I have lived before. I wish that I could say that I have always met people under the best of circumstances, but the truth is, people call me when they have a problem, and I always answer. Working behind the scenes at the council dais, I help transform a seasonally open municipal pool into a year-round aquatic center. I've spoken out in organized opposition to 75-foot buildings and outside investor rental homes. I supported the expansion of Naranja Park, and my pride and joy and most difficult accomplishment, I led the saving of the Vistoso Golf Course from development to add 202 acres of recreational open space to our parks and recreation portfolio. These efforts, which I am honored to have been a part of, help shape the Oro Valley we all love and call home. And every one of these issues involved multiple council decisions, highlighting the importance of council members that have not taken money from developers or special interest groups. That's why I am self and resident funding my campaign. I know I am not a physically big person, but when it comes to standing up for this special community, I have broad shoulders, a solid tool set, extensive knowledge and experience, and most of all, a reputation for getting things done. Oh, and one more thing. I have a really good memory. And if you elect me, I will not forget that this is a representative government and that I will serve to make sure that you have a voice in our special community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Next, we have Matt Wood.
Good evening. Thank you to the Chamber for this opportunity. I'm Matt Wood, and I decided to run for town council to represent OV residents in preserving the town we all know and love. I've been attending most of the meetings of town council the last few years and have a pretty good understanding of what's going on and the big issues. I served on a number of industry government affairs committees when I was working and learned how politics works. Not the version I was taught in grad school, by the way. When retirement was drawing near, I asked Susan where she wanted to end up, and we chose Southern Arizona. We made a couple of house hunting trips in 2014 and decided on Oro Valley. We liked the way it was, loved the views, the open space, and the desert landscapes, and assumed most of the growth was behind us by looking at the maps and the available land. I retired in 2019 and have been a full-time resident ever since. As we live in Rancho Vistoso, I volunteered for the Finance Committee on the HOA, and I started that in 2020. In 2019, I interviewed for PRAB, which is the Oro Valley Parks and Rec Board, and was appointed starting in January of 2020. I served until 2023, 1 year as vice chair and a year as chair. During my time on PRAB, I learned so much about the town and how things operate. As we went through the Naranja Park expansion, the tennis and pickleball court refurbishment at the rec center, and of course, the purchase of the Vistoso Trails Nature Preserve from Romsman. Full disclosure, we live on the preserve. So I like to keep the character of Oro Valley intact with some growth, but to continue to limit the heights of buildings as we have for years. In the OV Path Forward survey, 82% of the residents do not support 5- and 6-story buildings. I'd like to keep the character of Oro Valley intact with some growth, but to continue limiting the heights of buildings as we have for years. I believe we should support the town's residents' wishes, and it was very clear what they wished. Site location and neighboring homes have to be given prime consideration. And so Parks and Rec is very important to me, as is the Vistoso Trails Preserve. The current council authorized the pond restoration on Vistoso Highlands Drive. Oh, stop. I'm done.
Thank you, thank you. All right, our next candidate is Chris D. Simone.
Thank you. I'm running for office in a town that I've been living here with my family since 1995. For one reason, I'm like you, I really love it here. I love raising my kids here. We love living in Copper Creek, and I have been very active in this community. Probably, when you first start off, I have been the cashier at your Scholastic Book Fair at Copper Creek. I have coached kids in CDO and Coronado Little League. I have done AYSO coaching, club coaching, and I love this town. And so over the last so many years, I've been in broadcasting and marketing. And I had a morning drive time show where now happily on the Live the Dream Media Network in Marana, which is owned by one of our owners, is here from Oro Valley. And I will tell you that I have interviewed all the power makers, the bureaucrats. I've analyzed, I've written for the Inside Tucson Business, and I have seen the good, bad, and the indifferent of local government. And it's something that I have now decided to run because I see Oro Valley coming to a very dangerous crossroads, where when those revenue and expense numbers are starting to get a little too close to each other, we have to start thinking, how do we maintain this amazing community we have? But at the same time, how do we move forward in a vibrant way that benefits all of our residents. In the last so many elections, we've always had one side against the other, and it's tiresome. I want a vibrant community for Oro Valley that's good for young families, fixed income seniors, business owners. I want this community to not just stay the same, I want it to stay beautiful. I want to be respectful of everyone's wishes, but at the same time, through some different ways of thinking, we can move forward without ruining the character that my friend Matt here was talking about. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And our fifth candidate this evening is Jake Harrington.
Hi, thank you very much for being here. My name is Jake Harrington. I've lived in Pima County for over 37 years. I've lived in Oro Valley here for about 17 years. I'm currently a vice president of a large HOA, and I have been Conceptual Design Review Board vice chair, and I was a past planning and zoning chairman for town of Oro Valley. So I've volunteered a lot of hours for the town, and I want to do something to help my town. I love this town. I love the mountains. I understand the general plan, and I understand planning and zoning. I work for a nonprofit organization here in the Tucson area, and I have my lovely wife, my dog, my kids graduated from Ironwood School, and we own a business, commercial real estate business, and my biggest thing for Oro Valley is I want our town to survive and grow. I love this town. I love this community. I walk my dog in and around Hunt Park. I see a lot of people. I love this town, this weather. I just want to be a problem solver. I'm a big tent person. I love collaborative leadership. I want to make sure that if you have a problem or situation, through the logistics that I worked with on a daily basis, I deal with multi-million-dollar budgets on a daily basis. I'm a problem solver. So I like to find whatever the problem is, doesn't matter which political party you're for or with, I want to answer your questions, answer your problems, and solve it, no matter what it is. I'm an open door person. I want to hear all sides of the issues and solve that issue. I want to be your advocate. I want to be your representative for Oro Valley. I want to solve the issues and the problem. The town has quite a few that are coming up, and we're almost fully built out, and I have some solutions. I know there's other people here that may have some solutions too, and I'm a big tent person. I like to help Oro Valley grow and continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you to all the candidates for your opening statements. Before we jump into the questions, I want to briefly set the stage for tonight's forum. Oro Valley is a strong and highly desirable community that has consistently been recognized for its quality of life and public safety, and that does not happen by accident. At the same time, like many communities, Oro Valley is facing some real challenges. Growth has been relatively flat. Revenue sources like sales tax and state shared revenue have shown signs of leveling off. And issues like housing, water, and long-term financial sustainability are becoming more important. Tonight's questions are designed to reflect both the strengths of Oro Valley and the opportunities ahead. Our goal is to give the candidates the opportunity to share how they plan to navigate these issues. And with that, let's get started. Just a reminder, you have 90 seconds for your response, and we're going to start our first topic with Rosa Daly. The town's funding structure relies heavily on sales tax and state shared revenue, both of which have shown signs of leveling off in recent years, including a shortfall in construction sales tax revenue. These revenue sources are closely tied to economic activity and population trends, which data suggests have remained relatively flat. So Rosa, how do you view Oro Valley's financial outlook, and what approach would you take to ensure long-term financial stability?
Thank you for the question. Well, I have a little bit more optimistic outlook for Oro Valley. I understand the characterization of the sales tax and construction, being somewhat less than it was a few years ago, but I see a lot of opportunity. When I was attending the strategic planning meeting in March, I was very encouraged by the annexation policy to look to gather some land between Tahanachul and the Westward Look Resort, and that annexation strategy could pick up existing retail, and they have their own water source. So that is one way we can bring in some revenue without taxing our water and without changing too much of the character of Oro Valley. So I don't see it as a bleak situation. I think that the council that we currently have has done a really good job of directing our finance director on how to make the adjustments necessary to be a town that's 95% built out. So I'm very optimistic about our financial future.
Thank you, Rosa. Next, Matt Wood.
Same question?
Yes, same question.
Yeah, I agree with what Rosa said on the Plan B that was in the Explorer the other day, reading about it and how we annex some of that land and pick up some retail. That makes a lot of sense. I know it's not easy, but it's something that I think we can start with for sure. You know, I think like Parks and Rec, which I'm most familiar with, you know, there's a little bit more money to be gained there. We raised the fees this year. I think they should continue to go up a little bit, not huge amounts, but small amounts, and just kind of chip away at the issue. You know, the sales tax revenue is going to go up and down. Hopefully it'll go up, but I think we need to plan for the future and kind of watch what the other communities are doing, and we don't need to match them, but if we see an opportunity to pick up a little additional revenue in there, then we should, you know, probably try to make some small changes, and I don't think there'll be resident revolt if it's just small changes. I think it's the big ones that always shock them.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Okay, Chris?
So the annexation thing is going to be critical, and I would even think a little bigger than what's currently being talked about. I'd talk about Foothills Mall. I'd talk about going down to Orange Grove and Oracle. I'd talk about probably, I know Encantada's even come up as a kind of possibility as something that we can start growing the revenue of Oro Valley without putting so much pressure on developing the current footprint that we have now. I think the other thing that a lot of people who are business owners in this room right now will tell you that Oro Valley as a, quote, business-friendly environment isn't really what, I don't know if staff thinks it is, or it's not, it's to me, I hear nothing but angst from local business when it comes to the attitude of local government here. And it's something where the attitude has to change, and I think changing up the council the way it's gonna get changed up with the right people will lead to that. I'm on the Tourism Advisory Commission for Oro Valley, and we made this decision to try to start our own destination management organization with basically 2 people. One person has a real job doing economic development, and I'm amazingly disappointed in this effort, and it's something where I don't feel like we're even getting close to where we need to be in maximizing hotel and taxes through the tourism business without changing a thing about anything, developing anything new in Oro Valley. So we have there's a lot of meat on that bone, and we have a lot of work to do.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Okay, Jake?
I believe the town of Oro Valley needs to be more business-friendly than we currently are. Absolutely, 100%. I know that the taxes, what we receive, which is about $57 million we receive in taxes, I think it's 27.8% of that is from sales tax. We need to make sure that the businesses that are currently in Oro Valley are full. We need to be vibrant. We need to make sure that there's a lot of leakage. We have a lot of people in Oro Valley shopping in Marana, Pima County, and other areas. We need to spend that money here in Oro Valley. It's all about local, local, local. We have to spend the money in Oro Valley. We need to encourage businesses to come to Oro Valley. We need to roll out the red carpet and say, hey, We want you here. We want you to stay here. The businesses that are currently here, we need to make sure and shop here in town. We need to make sure that all the employees that they have jobs to come, not just today, but 5 years and 25 years down the road. We need to make sure and facilitate that. We need to make sure that companies want to bring their large companies as well as the mom and pops in our town. We need to facilitate the tourism. Our hotels need to be full. Our restaurants need to be full. We need to bring Chick-fil-A here to Oro Valley. We need to, if I could promise you that I would, but that's something that I would work on. But we need to bring those things here to the town. It's something that is we just have to be more business friendly. We have to streamline the process on the permits. And thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Jake. Okay, and Rhonda.
Thank you. How many people fall asleep when you talk about budgets? So it's not fun. It doesn't have excitement. Revenue generation doesn't happen overnight. It's in tandem. Revenue generation happens. We also have to watch expenses. Currently, the town of Oro Valley with the fiscal year 2026 to date is behind in revenue generation. We are expected, based on the financials provided by the town manager, we're going to have about a $4 to $5 million shortfall. And that's from construction sales tax, it's bed tax, and it's also the state shared revenue. So my suggestion, we're heavily in debt. We're about 45 million in debt. We're paying it with sales tax. It's going to take annexation. Annexations take a long time. We're going to have to look at our expenses. And we're also going to look at a pay-as-you-go. We need to hold back on the expenses that the town currently has. It's a multi-pronged approach, but I think with the council, we can do it, and we can do it right. It's just going to take a really, really concerted effort to do it and be honest with ourselves and honest with our community and work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. We're going to move on to more discussion about the economics of Oro Valley, and we're going to start, Matt, you'll be next first on this question. A strong business community is critical to the town's revenue and overall long-term stability and health. A healthy business climate is one where expectations are clear, processes are consistent, and businesses can plan and invest with confidence. Business investment is often influenced by how predictable and supportive the local environment is. What actions would you take to support local businesses and ensure that Oro Valley is competitive in attracting and retaining investment?
So I have asked some of the town staff, and kind of in passing, I said, I keep hearing that it's difficult to do business in Oro Valley. I said, is that right? Do you guys know about it? Is it something you're working on? And I kind of got a wishy-washy answer. So I really think we need to dig into this and find out, what the problems are and at least solve some of them, because we can't just be the ones that nobody wants to come to. We need businesses in town. We need to support the businesses. I think the buy locally that we had a lot of press on that, especially before Christmas, was a good idea, and we need to build upon it. I think at every one of the functions that we have, stuff at Steam Pump and James C. Craig and at Naranja, we should have signs out there saying buy local. It's important, and I think if people really get a firm understanding of it, they'll do a better job of keeping that sales tax revenue in Oro Valley and not spilling it out to other places.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, Chris.
Thank you. So when I talk to business owners who try to expand or move their business here, they always talk about, and we're not even talking about big changes, we're talking about basic tenant improvements inside the existing pad. It always seems to be a bear to do something in Oro Valley. We have fallen behind the customer service curve in relation to our brothers and sisters in Marana, and something has to be done about it. I remember, I don't want to steal Jake's thunder, but there was a certain commercial realtor who came to the forum that this chamber did about the commercial rental tax. And it was one of those little piddly taxes. Instead of being serious about structural expenses and how we bring revenue into the town, And it was like one of the worst ideas every commercial realtor had ever heard is we're going to make it even harder and more expensive to open up a business in Oro Valley. And I think the attitude, and I think there's a critical mass of the council that I don't know if it's their attitude of not maybe a lack of management of the manager that leaks down to staff, but there's a problem here when our business owners who are struggling and they need a predictable use of their capital so they're not just wasting money on time that their business isn't open is something that's really hurting us. And then, well, I know I'm going to run out of time. I can see it's coming up, so I may want to start in a second. So we're okay. Thanks. 5 seconds was still not enough, but I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Chris. All right, Jake, again, how would you support local business and investment in the Oro Valley community?
Once again, I'm a big tent person, and I'm fully aware, being in the commercial real estate business, there's commercial real estate agents don't bring or send their clients to Oro Valley. They send them to other locations. Why? Because they say it's too hard or too difficult for the process of getting permits for either new businesses or new development. So why as Oro Valley, why are we inviting not just the commercial residents, but also the real estate, the residents, to come up here? Have that conversation. Why aren't they recommending businesses to come to and fill our vacant shops, locations that are currently vacant? Some have been vacant for 10 years or longer, next to the dollar store and the Home Depot.
Spirit Hall.
Sometimes we need to have that conversation. We need to just have that conversation. Just, hey, why aren't you bringing your clients? Why aren't you sending your clients? That's money and revenue and generations of funds that just lost because they're not bringing it. There's conversation's not there. We need to make sure that our stores are facilitated. What can we do as a town to help grow our current stores? What can they do to expand their current locations? We should be out there speaking to them. I know the chamber does a great job. We love them. But we need to make sure and have that regular conversation. We have to have that open door policy. Come talk to us. We come talk to you. One-on-one, all together. Bring those groups together for us so we can have that conversation.
Thank you, Jake. All right, Rhonda, let us know how you would support local businesses.
Thank you. So when I served on council before, we reevaluated all of the business ordinances in the town. We looked at what is it that we can change to make it easier for our businesses to do business in Oro Valley. So that was one thing. We need to look at the ordinances. The other thing that I think is important to do is let's do some really good projects. And I'm gonna say it. The Oro Valley Marketplace, it has been going back and forth for I don't know how long. And so what happened is the business community, the optics of how we do business here and how we treat our businesses, they pulled away or they get reluctant. And so I feel if we can just do a project, see it through, have it be a good project, it creates others wanting to come here and do business. It feeds on itself. That's how businesses work. And so I feel if we can improve what we have, encourage what we have, and get to know what we have. I don't think we really understand what is our business community and what do we want it to be. And so we need to get behind them. And I also think collaboratively, how is it that we can use and leverage other areas? Tucson Airport Authority, that's connected to tourism. How do we connect? How do we utilize what we currently have and expand on it and leverage the resources that are out there for us? Partners want to be here. They want to work with us. We just need to be open to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Okay, Rosa.
So I'm going to take a more optimistic view. We opened 46 businesses last year in Oro Valley. We must be doing something right. If you read the town manager's report every month, you'll see that we pull about 4 permits a month for new businesses. Certainly, there are probably things that we can do to improve the environment for businesses, but I just read an article by Mayor Winfield, very good piece of journalism, sir, where he visits a business every week with the chamber. So I would continue that program where we fund the chamber and we have these meetings with our businesses to ask them what they like, what they don't like. I think, businesses, I just talked to someone before this venue who is opening a business and pretty excited about it in Oro Valley. So I just take a more optimistic view. I think the current council has done a wonderful job in supporting the business community. I just think we need to take a look at how we can maybe streamline things. But one of the ways we can do that is to continue the program that Mayor Winfield has been doing and talk to a business every week.
Thank you, Rosa. All right, our next subject, Chris, you're going to start. Something you all have already touched upon, but is growth. Oro Valley is nearing build-out with limited land available for future expansion. As a result, the town faces important decisions about how and where to grow. So the question is, Chris, how should Oro Valley approach growth, rezoning, and potential annexation opportunities, and what criteria should guide those decisions?
Sure. Again, the realities of our financials are real. 2021, I think our expenditure to revenue was 68 cents for every dollar. Now we're up to 88 cents per every dollar. And those are concerning numbers. So on the development growth side, first and foremost, you're going to respect the general plan and what the voters of Oro Valley and the residents want. One of the things I love about this town is you're amazingly active and engaged. Look at some of the communities to the south who have very little engagement from a cross-section of their communities, and they're falling apart. So I love the engagement from the community here. So I've been talking about this annexation thing to the south for probably the last 6 months on my show, and pretty much I'm annoying everyone when I go to Dunkin' Donuts and get a coffee. I talk about annexation to the south. And this is going to be part of the path. Yes, we have to be better on controlling our expenses, but the annexation to the south, taking our small businesses seriously in relation to what they need, and then also, again, back to being on the Tourism Advisory Commission. We are leaving a lot of money on the table in relation to a clean business, which is tourism, and we have personalities that somehow aren't thrilled with some of our properties, and I can see that it's hurting the revenue prospects for Oro Valley when it comes to our bed tax revenue. So annexation, Foothills Mall, I'm going to keep saying it like a broken record. I'm going to know you guys like the coffee guy. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. All right, Jake.
All right, thank you very much. I think growth is very important. We have to do it smart, healthy. As a former planning and zoning chairman of Oro Valley, I've went through a lot of those processes for growth. We have to consider it, and we have small areas that need to be built out. That's just got to happen. The tax revenue has to come in. And as we talk about annexation, the biggest driver or the biggest convincer for anyone to be annexed into the town, if that's what we decide to do, and I'm not saying yes or no, is our OVPD. That's our selling point. We should be standing and yelling about that. We have the best police department in the state of it. I mean, we just did the best.
Say country.
It's great. That is our selling point to growth. Anyone who wants to be annexed into Oro Valley, first thing they said, we have OVPD. Yep. Enough said right there. I mean, literally, that is our selling point to any annexation. The sales tax is needed in many different ways. Roads, infrastructure, water, sewer, trash, all that. We have to make sure that the growth is done smart, healthy. It's going to be harder now that we don't have large swatches of land. We have pockets of properties that are not spoken for. 95 plus around that number is already spoken for or in development one stage or another. We have to plan properly and move that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Okay, Rhonda, what do you think about the growth, rezoning, and potential annexation?
Thank you. Obviously, I think annexation is going to have to be a choice for Oro Valley. We have a town of excellence. The quality services that we receive, it costs money. And so Oro Valley over time has grown with annexations. I've said to people, they can't be too bad because we all want to stay here and people want to come here. So annexations can be done right. Annexations for Oro Valley, the most recent one I was involved in when I was on council was the 880 at Tangerine and Thornydale. That was 2 years in the making. Council stopped because there was an election. The economic impact analysis on that, first year out, we were going to have $1 million in sales tax revenue. That would be to the town. So annexations are important to how we provide premium services to our constituents. I do believe that we can do them right, but there's a cost. We do get revenue, but there is a cost. As the individuals have said here tonight, it's your police, it's your water, it's your roads. We have to take that into consideration. But I do believe, for the very reasons we want to be here, throughout time, annexations have occurred. That's how the town has grown. So I think that they can be done right. And we'll need to do it in tandem with some of the other things we've talked about tonight to be able to get ourselves in a place where the revenue can outweigh the expenses and the debt that we have and still provide the core services we love.
Thank you, Rhonda. Okay, Rosa.
So on the topic of growth, we currently have in the neighborhood of 3,000 units approved, but not yet built. Some are under construction now. You see Oro Valley Marketplace, some houses along Naranja, Rancho Vistoso Boulevard. So that amount of housing is a good amount of growth to, to satisfy the town's needs for growth up to about 2040 if we were going to grow moderately. The issue of growth by annexation of land, specifically what was just mentioned was the 880, is more problematic because we are constrained by water. In October, when the consultant representing the 880 presented to council, the council members asked the water director to come to the dais and asked him if we had the water to do this. We are the only municipality that can provide water to that particular annexation land. And the water director's response was that he wouldn't commit at this time because of the fact that we are in a falling apart negotiations between the upper and lower basin states for our Central Arizona project, our CAP water allocation. So yes, annexations are important and growth is important, but it has to make sense for the residents of Oro Valley. We can't jeopardize our water supply.
Thank you, Rosa. And finally, on the subject of growth, Matt Wood.
Thank you. Yeah, the real criteria here has got to be, does it make financial sense? There's a lot of expenses that go in at the front end, and you get a lot of construction use tax money that comes to the town, and then towards the end of whatever the cycle is, you start spending more money on the area. So it's if it makes sense, I would support it, but I'm not so sure that 880 acres. I thought it sounded pretty good for a while, and then when, as Rosa said, when Peter said we may or may not have water, that's a big issue. If we're going to have all of these apartments that are going to go in, and they're already zoned, they're ready to go, they're going to require a lot of water too. So, and especially now that the cap is going to be reduced by 40% or so, that's a scary situation. I think we need to hold our cards pretty close. But I do like as I said before, the Plan B annexation of the property on the south end by Ina. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Matt. All right, Jake, next topic of housing. Housing affordability and availability have become major challenges across Arizona and the country, impacting workforce availability, economic growth, and overall community sustainability. The question is, what role should the town of Oro Valley play in addressing housing? And how would you approach decisions around different housing types and development?
Thank you for the question. Housing, that is something that we absolutely need. We do have a lot of wonderful houses here in Oro Valley. Most of the workers that work here in Oro Valley don't live here in Oro Valley. So I would say the Oro Valley Town and Council should reach out to some of the developers and see if there's any tax credit properties that they would like to build. Invite them to our conversation, allow them to not come out of taxpayers' money or pockets, but have the developers build it. It's a benefit for them and a benefit for us. There is plenty of people out there who need housing, affordable housing. Not everyone that lives in Oro Valley can afford to live in Oro Valley, and that's just plain and simple. That's numbers, supply and demand. There's not enough, you have enough apartments here. Every time they build an apartment community, the older apartment communities can't raise their rents, or usually won't, because they'll have vacancies there. So you have to build the supply chain. So the newer properties that are there and available, they have the higher prices. If you want to move to a higher price, great. If you want to have an affordable apartments, usually the older models or older units that are on there, they keep their prices a little bit lower. So it helps the newer people that are first-timers. Maybe your kids are moving out of the house. They need an apartment. They're first-time renters. They can move to the more affordable houses instead of the brand new ones. So the more apartments you add to the supply, the better it is for Oro Valley. And I think that's just supply and demand. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. All right, next, Rhonda, on the subject of housing.
Yes, so having a department that is workforce development, I can tell you that it's based on wages. So in Oro Valley, we say we want restaurants. Well, restaurants can't pay the wages that engineers make. And so what does that do? That has an impact on the housing, because people that are making a certain wage, and let's just say entry-level wage, they have to drive to Oro Valley, or they have to live very close to Oro Valley. So we have to decide what type of housing do we want to have for individuals at different levels. We already know we have a very high income here, so that's not an issue. So if we want to help the individuals who want to look for affordable housing, we have to figure out what that housing looks like and how we're gonna have it in Oro Valley. As far as where the placement is, we've had many a conversation throughout time about where should apartments go. They make sense on Oracle Road. How many single-family residents should we have? I think we have data. The question becomes, what do we want to do with the individuals that are here that we need for our workforce? What do we need to do for them? And there's ways that we can look at that. Another thing too is our public safety. That public safety drives our appraisals. So when we live in a town where the cost of our homes, our appraisal values are high, they cost quite a bit, that's gonna have an impact on how we can provide affordable housing. So I think we need to look at all options.
Thank you, Rhonda. Okay, Rosa?
So I attended more Oro Valley Path Forward meetings than any other resident in Oro Valley. And I can tell you how the residents of Oro Valley want to solve this problem through the statistically valid surveys and other methods that were used to survey the people who live here. Their approach was to encourage more lower priced housing like duplexes, condominiums, and townhomes. They were not in favor of large corporations coming in and building subsidized housing. And that was very clear from these meetings. The other thing that was discussed quite frequently is that we have a lot of apartments that are approved and some are under construction, and that if we can increase that number, which we have, that will drive down costs eventually for renting. So I think, what is really important is we need to solve this problem the way the residents of Oro Valley want it solved. And so that's why I think it's important to understand what will be in that new 10-year plan.
Thank you, Rosa. Okay, Matt, how would you address the housing issue in Oro Valley?
So I sat through a lot of those meetings also. I guess I wasn't first. But when I was looking at the OV path forward, it was very clear that the residents weren't in favor of any kind of affordable housing. Yeah, a little less expensive, I think, more in favor of some duplexes or triplexes or some condos maybe, those sorts of things I think they were more in favor of. And when we ask the residents for their opinion and they give it to us, we should probably take it. Sometimes we don't. So I just think that as an example, I was standing out front of Fry's collecting signatures, and I would ask if they were an Oro Valley resident, and it was less than 50% going past Fry's, because it's on Oracle, and lots of people from Saddlebrook, and lots of people from Catalina, and unincorporated Pima. It was amazing to me that the number of people that actually lived in Oro Valley, voted in Oro Valley, it was probably 30%, at least my non-statistical sample. So anyway, she just flashed me.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, finally, Chris, on the subject of housing.
So, this national problem with the price of housing, right, has pushed so many people in relation to how much it costs just to live. I'm really worried about some of our people who lived here. I walk my dogs. I see that my neighbors in Copper Creek, and they always tell me that, you know something, I am so maxed out on my what I'm paying for taxes and just paying for food and everything going on, that if we ever had to raise taxes, or if I had a mortgage on this house, I'd have to sell it and move. But we're Oro Valley. We were 95% build out. Let's get real. There is no affordable housing, okay? And apartments is, the Oro Valley residents multiple times say, no more apartments. When I say the word to different groups, right? It could be, it doesn't matter whether, I say the word apartments, and you thought I said a really bad word. Right? I said it in passing one day. I said, well, Foothills Mall, they're redoing those apartments, and half the room went, my God, apartments, right? So I understand. This is not a place for affordable housing. Let's just be real. If it's Jake's right, supply and demand, right? We don't have there's not enough flexibility in what we have available to have anything in affordable housing. So the affordable housing is probably going to have to be somewhere else, whether it's in Pima County or Marana. That's where we're at. Sorry, but that's the reality of it.
All right, thank you, Chris. All right, Rhonda, we'll throw it over to you on the topic of water and long-term sustainability.
Yep.
Water availability and long-term sustainability are critical issues in our region and directly impact future growth, development, and long-term planning. Locally, there have been ongoing discussions around water use priorities, conservation efforts, and how water availability should factor into decision-making. So our question is, how do you assess Oro Valley's current approach to water use and planning, and what actions would you take to ensure long-term sustainability?
So with the town's water department, they've done an excellent job at conservation. I think the residents do a great job of conservation. The town of Oro Valley, back in 2017, we voted for what's called the Northwest Recharge and Recovery System. That system is a partnership with the town of Marana and Metro Water. And what it does is it essentially allows us to bring our CAP water up to Oro Valley. And then in turn, that helps us to preserve our groundwater wells here in Oro Valley. So I think Oro Valley has been visionary. I supported and voted on that, and that project is now going to be coming to fruition. So I would say the town has done a very good job at preservation and conservation. Where I see a challenge is that we are going to have CAP cuts. We still have our allocations, but where the challenge is going to come is reclaimed water. If indeed they do cut CAP, it's very possible that the agriculture will start using reclaimed. If they start using reclaimed, guess what happens? Cost goes up. So I think in general, we have done an excellent job, but I also think we need to be very mindful of how we're going to continue to use water in the future. But I compliment our residents and our town water department, Peter Abraham, for being forward-thinking and visionary to put the Northwest Recharge and Recovery System in place to ensure our long-term sustainability in water supply.
Thank you, Rhonda. I know, Rosa, this isn't a topic important to you. I'll hand it over to you.
Yes, so, okay, I have some statistics for you. About 65% of our water use is groundwater, and 35% is the cap water that Rhonda just referred to, brought to us by the Northwest Recharge and Recovery Distribution System. And that system is about 60% complete, and it brings us about 4,000 additional acre feet of water, and I think it's an acre foot for like 3 homes or something like that. So essentially, we are really good conservers. The Arizona, the current water management plan is that every resident should use 211 gallons of water a day or less. And in 2024, the last time it was evaluated, we use 125 per person. So we are super, super conservers in this town. So I think that we have done a really good job with our water portfolio, but the other thing that the Northwest Recharge and Recovery Distribution System does is it's infrastructure that can not only bring the cap water, but it can help us if we ever need to purchase water. So I think, as Rhonda said, I think we have done a really good job here in Oro Valley with our water portfolio.
Thank you, Rosa. Okay, Matt, what's your approach to water use and planning?
Yeah, the cap water is going to be an issue, no question about it. I think we need to hold our cards pretty close. Certainly that 3,500 acres that's north of Oro Valley should not even be considered because we'd have to supply water to that. So, I mean, just in our normal footprint here, we've been banking water for years. The last water report I listened to, we had a 100-year supply, and then all of a sudden, maybe not. So I think water is certainly a valuable resource in Oro Valley. We've done a good job of using it. I think we need to continue to promote conservation efforts. I mean, I'm in Rancho Vistoso. We took the turf out of our monuments and put rock there. It was more symbolic than a lot of acre feet of water, but it's just everybody does a little bit, and I think we can keep this at bay for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, Chris?
The people who talked previous to me, I can't disagree with what Rhonda and Rosa and what Matt said, because next to our police department, I would say that our water conservation and our water utility department and Mr. Abraham, it's like the 1-2 punch of what we do really, really, really well. And I will give the current council credit for staying the course on a lot of this stuff. And, I would say the only thing you could improve on is that the average citizen in Oro Valley needs to just know more, right? Just, they're not staring at anything shoved in their water bill, right? We have to figure out a way, how do we get this information out better, keep pushing the conservation, and be creative about how we think about how we communicate in the future, because again, to me, how we've handled water has been amazing, and I think we should be the envy of other communities in the Southwest. So, thanks.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Okay, and finally, Jake.
All right. Thank you for the question. Of course, education is very important. We all live in a desert, and we've chosen to live in a desert, and we understand that water is life source and lifeblood of living in a desert. Of course, annexing land for watersheds, having the land to have that watershed underneath of it. I know that you already use reclaimed water, which is great. That's consistent. A lot of the multifamily, single family, and new businesses are and have retrofitted their businesses' homes to be more water and energy efficient. So we're kind of on board with it already, and we know that water is the lifeblood for us. So I think that staying the course, educate people on saving water, not planting grass in the desert. It's mainly rock anyway, but I think that's very important to keep educating people that are moving here from other locations that grass is probably not the best idea. Save water, conserve water, harvest water if you can, and use it properly, use it wisely. We live in a desert, so live and work and provide water efficiently. I think that's pretty much it. And just educate people, the youth, seniors, adults. We need to make sure that everyone is aware of it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jake. I think we have time for 2 more questions. We have enough time for 2. Great. All right, our next subject is something I know is very important to everybody in this room, and that's public safety. Oro Valley has long been recognized as one of the safest communities in the region, which is something residents and businesses value highly. At the same time, expectations continue to rise, along with the cost of policing. So Rosa, we're going to give you this first. How do you evaluate the town's current public safety services, and what priorities would you set to maintain that standard moving forward?
Thank you. I think we have excellent public safety services, and I think we need to just make it a priority that we have to fund public safety. We have to properly compensate our officers. I don't think they should ever have to file into the council chambers and stroll up to the dais to beg for money, which unfortunately was an occurrence this past year. I think we need to make sure that we understand that that particular budget center drives everything else about Oro Valley. As a matter of fact, it's the #1 thing mentioned to Mayor Winfield when he visited the businesses. They want to locate here because it's safe. People want to live here because it's safe. So we have to make it a priority when we look at our budget, and the council guides the budget. We don't create the budget, but we need to set those priorities for the staff when we go through the budget cycle and make sure that we are always compensating our officers. We also have to make investments in their infrastructure, such as the 50,500 square foot building we just purchased on Rancho Vistoso Boulevard at Oracle Road. And we need to make sure that we are always supporting our current police chief, and that we make sure that we have the ability to always put public safety first.
Thank you, Rosa. All right, the subject of public safety, Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, public safety came out #1 in every survey of everything we did with the OV Path Forward. So clearly, the constituency wants public safety is #1. They're willing to fund it, and that should be our #1 priority. We need to give them the tools that they need to perform their work. We don't need to, overstaff things, but we need to make sure that the response times are very quick in Oro Valley, especially compared to some of our neighbors, and that's what people want, and we should give our constituents what they want. It's been a great group. The OVPD is always there when there's some accident going on. You can see how well they wall off the area. It's a very well-oiled machine. Chief Riley does a terrific job, and I think we're fortunate to have him. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, Chris.
Chief Riley and the Oro Valley Police Department is just an amazing crew of humanity, and we're spoiled. The response times, trust me, we talk about what goes on in Tucson in Pima County, these crazy things like you call a cop, you get a cop. That's really awesome, because it's not happening 10 minutes south of here, okay? And that's why, if they're the #1 treasure of our government, right, as Matt was saying about different surveys, and Rosa was saying that with these business owners, the idea that we let that MOU with the cops this last time get to where it was, where police officers and their spouses were there with their kids going, what are you doing, right? That was an embarrassment. And I will never let that happen on my watch when I get on this council. And it's back to revenues and expenses again. This is one of those critical things that if we're not managing our expenses and we're not maximizing our revenues in the best, most responsible way possible, important things like police staffing is going to get put in the corner again. We've been painting ourselves in a corner financially over the last so many years, and what's going to happen is it's going to start pushing on those police officers, and we're going to have a situation. So, #1, take care of the cops and their families at all times. This is our #1 governmental service that we do. Don't mess it up. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Okay, Jake, what priorities would you set, again, to maintain the high level of public safety in Oro Valley?
First responders, we should all respect first responders. They come to you no matter when and where you call them. For me, the police department is A1, number one. For me, also, everything that we said on here doesn't matter if you don't have a great police department. Doesn't matter. Nothing else matters if you don't have the great police department to protect and serve our community, whether you're a guest, a resident, doesn't matter. You gotta have it. Gotta have the great police department to back you up in a time of need. They don't care who you are, what you did, or what you did yesterday, tomorrow, or whatever. They're there for you. For me, you gotta have the STEP program. I believe in the STEP, not the merit. And I believe the police department should report to the mayor and council, not to the city manager. They have to have, you have to pay for your police department. That goes towards supply and demand, as you mentioned. We have to bring in more revenue to be able to fund the police departments for what they need. Their vehicles will age. Their supplies will age. They're in a building that they're about to move into whenever that happens. But it's all about supply and demand and taking care of the police department that protect you and the guests and your residents, your family, your kids. You have to have great police officers. You want to have other officers from other agencies, Marana, Sarita, Pima County, or other locations wanting to go and be a Oro Valley Police Department, whether you're a detective, sergeant, command. Hey, I want to go to Oro Valley. I want to be a police department that loves and cares for their police department. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Okay, and finally, Rhonda on the subject of public safety.
So policing is expensive. It's extremely expensive. It is, along with water, the largest parts of our budget for the town, but it's worth it. We have competing needs, and that's why we're at a crossroads right now with where our expenses and where our revenues are. Those revenues help pay for that policing and the safety that we can feel comfortable with every day. So I would say that we need to manage a budget that is going to always ensure that when the police department looks at needing increases to compete, because they do on wages, as we mentioned wages earlier, they compete on wages with other municipalities. We can lose people to Phoenix if we don't take care of our staff on the police department. As a leadership body, we should have never had the MOU issues that we had. They should not have to come and feel angst. They feel angst every day on the job. And so it's up to us as leaders to make sure that we don't put that situation again on their laps. I'll go so far as to say I was really proud. I currently have the Arizona Conference of Police and Chiefs endorsement for passing the first Pima County distracted driving ordinance. Two things. It helps keep our community safe. It helps our police officers by not having to see catastrophic events. The mental wellness of our officers is important, and we need to consider that in the budget as well when we're giving them not only their wages, but overall compensation. We should be taking that into consideration for what they do every day with their service. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Okay, Rosa. Are we finished? Oh, we're on to the next. We're actually on our final question. Okay, final question of the night, and we're going to start with Matt. Okay, tourism, art, and economic impact. Tourism and destination experiences are part of Oro Valley's current economic strategy. At the same time, there have been community-led discussions around arts and cultural amenities, including a potential performing arts center. So the question is, what role should tourism and these types of investments play in Oro Valley's future, and how should success be measured?
Well, yeah, the tourism group now that's meeting, that's a great idea. That Performing Arts Center is a big ticket item, but I think there's some revenue that could be generated from it. The Naranja Park, they have big tournaments there, and it fills a lot of hotel rooms, I'm sure. Along with the tennis, they have a lot of tennis tournaments, and of course, the Aquatic Center. Those are all great revenue generators. Of course, the Aquatic Center's not generating enough revenue to cover their expenses, but they are doing a pretty good job. So, yeah, I think we can continue to pursue a lot of things. I'd have to see the numbers on that Performing Arts Center before I could get wholeheartedly behind it. I understand there's a lot of private funding, but somewhere along the line, it all comes back to the town, to have overall responsibility for it. So it would be nice to have, certainly, but you start thinking about who shows up to a lot of the theater events and stuff, and they mostly look like me, and I won't be around that much longer. So that's always kind of an issue. I always have that in the back of my head. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. So Chris, how should Oro Valley invest in tourism and the arts?
You don't look that old, Matt. I want to tell you that. So I am on the inaugural Tourism Advisory Committee that was initially, proposed by Councilwoman Murphy, and I'm so happy that the council decided to approve it. We have a great group of 5 people. 4 of us are in the hotel hospitality business, and then or tourism in a variety of ways. And then the great Sasha Case is our art guru expert on our commission. And we're cleaning up the mess that was made by the town. They decided they were leaving Visit Tucson early, and if you've heard me talk, I'm not a huge Visit Tucson guy. I think we need to build our own regional DMO, Destination Management Organization, in conjunction with Marana. You have to have a critical amount of assets that you're going to be selling out to the world, and that's hotel rooms, attractions, restaurants, all this stuff. We left too early. We have an economic development guy who kind of knows a lot of words that's related to tourism, and then we have a very good employee there who are trying to replace a 48-person staff that has a lot of assets and to do the right thing. So right now we are cleaning up the mess as a tourism advisory commission, and it's amazingly important. We are leaving so much money on the table. We are underserving our restaurants and our hotels in this town because we muffed the ball on this, and that has to be fixed.
All right, thank you, Chris. Okay, Jake.
All right, thank you. Maybe he'll change the name to Visit Oro Valley.
Marana Oro Valley Experience. Move.
Of course, I do know a lot of the projects, 1% of new development or new projects have to have some kind of art. So art is definitely important. I think theater and art is wonderful. We should invite our youth to participate in it more. It is a cultural thing that we should have for our youth, as well as our seasoned citizens who can also participate and give knowledge and experience. I think arts is culture. And if you don't know your history, you don't know your future. So I think that we should invite more art. And there's also grant money for art. Of course, there should be a lot of private partnerships with towns and municipalities. We can definitely tap into that. And I think tourism is magnet for us to grow our town. Of course, we have to have the tourism to come see our art. Oro Valley has art everywhere, which is great. People come just to see the art. They go touring around Oro Valley just looking at some of the art. That drives people, they have to eat lunch, so they stop and eat some food or drinks or fuel up their vehicles. So it's a driving engine with supply and demand. You supply the art, they'll come and look at it. No other town does as much art that we do here in Oro Valley. We should scream that from the rooftop. Come visit, come look at our art, Oro Valley.
Thank you, Jake. Okay, Rhonda, again, how should we invest in tourism and the arts, but also how should that be measured?
So I think one of the ways that we measure and have an outcome is you look at the tourism bed tax. Currently, it has a shortfall of $575,000 on the financials year to date. That's a pretty good indicator of what's not happening. So we already have a foundation. It started with the Oro Valley Arts and Cultural Alliance. I served on that board years ago. It's morphed, and we have a foundation of arts and culture in the town. We have it all over Pima County. Again, we talk about how do we leverage resources, how do we leverage partners to bring in what's already there. We just need to make it better. Why spend more money on on something new? We have a center that we're looking at building. Again, we talk about where is it we want to have the priorities. And Oro Valley was built on the beauty and the art and the culture. And so it behooves us to continue to work on what do we currently have. And then when it comes to the tourism side, we have 2 beautiful resorts. We need to get behind them. We need to make sure that we're giving them the support. The Visit Tucson, I wasn't on council. I don't know what happened, that we ended that relationship. But certainly, it didn't make sense, because if we've got the leverage to help us be a better town when it comes to tourism, then I think we need to take advantage of that. It takes leadership, takes really good leadership to make those decisions.
All right, thank you, Rhonda. And to close out our last question, Rosa.
So for me, the tourism question, first and foremost, we have to remember we're a residential community. We're not going to turn into Las Vegas. But I do think that there is a lot we can do with the assets we already have. So we have golf, which we've invested a lot of money in. We have the aquatic center, and now this proposal for a performing arts center. But, you know, performing arts centers are typically built from endowments because they're very expensive propositions. I know there's been a feasibility study. I'd love to see it. But so that would be like a future tourism thing. But what I really believe we should do is maximize our assets. I was just speaking with Tony D'Angelo before this venue, and I know he's on the tourism board with Christy Simone. And he was emphasizing there are so many little things we can do. When I asked for the feasibility study for the aquatic center, which was one of my first big projects here, one of the reasons why is because USA Swimming can conduct 3-day swim meets at this facility, which requires hotels and people eat. So little things like putting together packages for these people that are competitive so that they don't just pick their own hotel or stay in a hotel in Marana. So I think that tourism is important, and I think we're on the right track with what we're trying to do.
All right, thank you so much. I want to thank all our candidates for your responses tonight and for being mindful of the time. You made my job easy. Thank you so much. We're going to finish up with closing statements. And so we're going to go in reverse order of our opening statements. And you each will have, I believe, is it 1 minute for your closing remarks? So we're going to start with Jake Harrington.
Once again, thank you all for being here tonight. I just appreciate you being here and listening to what we all have to say. We have different opinions. Some are same or similar. But I think we all care about Oro Valley, and we just want to make a difference. I think that our heart is in the right place. I want to make sure that everyone knows that I just want to be part of the solution to make Oro Valley grow and be sustainability is there. I want to be able to make sure the budget is there there's a lot of projects and things that need to be done. We need to be mindful of the budget, and you need to look at how we're going to fund some of the projects that we want to do. We have to grow smart, and we have to be healthy on what we do. We need to keep Oro Valley what Oro Valley, heart of Oro Valley is, and we want to make sure that we invite people into our problems to help be part of the solution. I'm a big tent person, once again. I want to collaborate with other leaders. I may not have all the answers, but if I get in a room with other people's, we can probably find a compromise, good solution to find what the situation is. I want to make sure and just thank everyone for being here. There's art outside, too, to look at.
All right, thank you, Jake. All right, Christy Simone.
As I started before, I love this town, but we have put ourselves, and I think we're painting ourselves in a financial corner. In certain parts of our community, we're a community of excellence, and if you've been looking at some of the things I've been putting on my social media the last 2 weeks, sometimes we're just a community of okay, and that's not okay. So if you would like a council person who is going to ask tough questions, you're going to want a council person who's going to ask follow-up questions. If you want someone who has a very big knowledge of not just how municipal government works, but also the forces around us. No one has the knowledge that I have on this dais, and I love all your spirit and all your experiences, but I have been studying about local government for 18 years now. And it is an asset that would be a big help to getting Oro Valley where we need to get back to. So Christy Simone, ChrisForOV.com if you want to help out with the campaign. And then if you want to take a sign home, we have a few out there. So thank you, and thanks to the Chamber, and thanks to all of you for your just being here. It's amazing. I'm always blown away by your engagement, so thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Matt Wood.
Hi, thank you. Thank you all for being here. This is great. I've been president of the Rancho Vistoso HOA for the last 3 years, and I've never seen more than about 10 people before. But Rancho Vistoso is 40% of Oro Valley, so I've got a pretty good feel for how things work, and there's lots of opinions out there. I just want people to work together to find good solutions. And I think that that's so very important in the town council. It's been going well, but there's certain financial things that we're going to need to figure out. It's going to require a lot of time and energy and commitment, and I have that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Matt. And I just want to say it's just coincidental that the women are on one side and the men are on the other. Just so y'all know, you're probably wondering, that is just how we drew numbers. So it just happened to end up that way. But on to this side, which is, we'll start with Rosa Daly.
Thank you. So I want to, also thank everyone for coming tonight. This is a really nice showing showing that you care about Oro Valley, which is important. I just want to say that, to prepare for this, I've attended council meetings or observed council meetings for the last 4 or 5 years. I've attended the last several strategic planning meetings, and I attended most of the Oro Valley Path Forward meetings. So if you heard some statistics or things tonight from me, and I got cut off by that 90 seconds, I'd be glad to pull up a chair with you and sit down and talk more about the things that I've learned and the things that I think I bring to the table. So I'm asking for your vote tonight so I can have a chance to continue the work that I've done in official capacity representing you for the town of Oro Valley.
Thank you, Rosa. And to end the evening, Rhonda Pena.
Thank you. Visionary and active leadership, in my opinion, is forward-thinking. It's not playing catch-up to resolve issues. Being on council, I have had the experience of learning what's important to the people in Oro Valley and understanding, the budget side of things, the beauty side of things. And so I would like to bring my private and public sector experience back to council. I think there's an opportunity to improve communication, transparency, and trust, and I would like to work with others to do that. Leadership is not about saying yes to everybody, it's about doing the right thing, and as you've learned tonight, I've made decisions previously on council. I did a lot more, but you learned about a couple of them that were really important and community-centric. And so I would ask that you consider me for a vote, and it would be an honor to serve Oro Valley once again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So before we move on to the mayoral portion of tonight, I want to thank all of our candidates. So everybody here, let's thank all our candidates tonight for being here. Thank you very much. So we're going to take about a 10-minute break. We'll start back at 7:30. So please take a break and we'll meet right back here. Okay, we're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. And again. No, because that'll throw me off. Okay, please take your seats. First of all, I want a question had come up as to how many council seats are available right now, and we have 3 open positions on the town council. So anybody who had asked, there are 3 open positions. Okay, all right, everybody, we're gonna get started. Welcome back. And now we're going to begin the mayoral portion of our forum tonight. As with the council candidates, speaking order was determined by a random draw backstage. Therefore, the women on this side and the men on this side again. But we will begin with opening statements, and each candidate will have 2 minutes. And we will start with Melanie Barrett.
Thank you. Thank you to all those who came tonight and to those who stayed for the mayoral portion and the later part of the evening. My name is Vice Mayor Melanie Barrett. I'm the current Oro Valley Vice Mayor, and I've been elected now twice to serve on the Oro Valley Town Council and 8 times as the Vice Mayor of the Town Council. I've loved serving this beautiful community for the past 8 years. And when Mayor Winfield decided that he was ready to retire from running, I decided to step up and try and continue some of the wonderful and incredible things that we've had going on in the town of Oro Valley. As far as my background, I have a law degree, and that's where I got, with my law degree, I have a background in land use planning. So that got me involved in the Oro Valley Planning and Zoning Commission. I served there for 4 years, 2 years as the vice chair, and at the time, there was a lot of things going on, of big rezonings that were happening, and I was facing roomfuls of citizens who were very upset about some of the things that were going on. I was concerned about why it felt like the residents' views weren't being listened to or they weren't being compromised enough. And then I discovered that there were often campaign donations that were occurring in finances to the council candidates. And so one of the things that I did was I stepped up and ran for office along with the current council majority. So for the past 8 years, I've not taken any donations from developers or outside of Oro Valley interests, campaign donations, and that's my commitment to continue to do that. I'm very proud of the work that we on the council have done in public safety. We're the #1 safest community in Arizona, or have been ranked. We're always in the top 5. The increase in parks and recreation that we've been able to accomplish with the build out of Naranja Park and improvements at the community center, and the national recognition we've received for being one of the most livable places in the nation to come and retire. So thank you. I look forward to sharing more of my vision with you tonight.
Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to mayoral candidate Mark Napier.
Well, good evening, and thank you for being here. I'm Mark Napier, and I'm running for Oro Valley Mayor. My wife Marlene and I have lived here for more than 30 years. We raised our family in Copper Creek, and now our grandchildren are attending school here. Like you, I care deeply about protecting what makes this community a very special place to live. It is not just a town, it is my home. Oro Valley has always been defined by excellent public safety, sensible growth, and responsible fiscal management. But now we're at the point where those priorities are being tested. We are facing real fiscal challenges. They're not going away, and denying them only makes them worse. Meeting these challenges will require new leadership and a fresh perspective. We cannot rely on the same approaches that got us here. This election comes down to how we respond. Some might tell you that everything is fine. Others may offer ideas without the real experience to produce results. I offer something different, decades of proven leadership. I've led large and complex organizations managing multi-million-dollar budgets. I've made tough decisions as a senior law enforcement leader, as the sheriff, and as an assistant county administrator. Decisions where results mattered far more than good intentions. Having worked for the city of Tucson, I've seen what happens when leadership lacks focus and direction. Communities suffer and the quality of life erodes. I will not let that happen here. I'm proud to have earned the endorsement of major law enforcement organizations and local leaders who understand what it takes to support public safety, provide leadership, and govern effectively. This election isn't only about endorsements. It is about new direction. If you want experienced leadership, fiscal discipline, and a clear path to ensure a bright future for Oro Valley, I would respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your opening statements. We'll now move on to the questions. For this portion, candidates will alternate who responds first. The first respondent will have 60 seconds, the second will have 90 seconds, and the first will have an additional 30 seconds to complete their full response. So let's begin with the first big picture question. And Mark, you will start.
Thank you.
Oro Valley is still a relatively young community, having celebrated its 50th anniversary in 2024. Some have said the town is still figuring out what it wants to be long-term. So the question is, how would you define Oro Valley's identity, and how would you shape it moving forward?
Well, I think as we've said, Oro Valley is an incredibly safe place to live. I choose to make my home here 3 decades ago. We need to continue what makes Oro Valley great while looking into the future. That's what leaders do. I've been a leader of large organizations my whole life. Leaders look into the future. They imagine what this town looks like 10 years from now, and then imagine what decisions we have to make today to ensure that that future becomes a reality. What I'm troubled by is we often don't see past the end of our nose, and we need to do a much better job of defining what Oro Valley looks like, not only today, which we've done an excellent job of, and that's why I live here, and that's why my grandchildren attend school here, but defining what Oro Valley looks like in 10 years, and then deciding what things we must do to ensure that that bright future remains that bright, and that we continue to define what Oro Valley makes it look great and why I've chosen to live here. But that requires strategic vision, strategic focus, and fiscal sustainability in order to make those things happen. And we need to make sure that we stay on that path. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Barrett, you have 90 seconds to tell us about your vision of Oro Valley's identity.
Thank you. I'd like to point out some of the things that we on the council have done that I consider very visionary, especially looking to Oro Valley's future. When we were elected, we inherited an unfunded police pension liability of $27 million that had been ignored by prior councils. We paid off this unfunded liability with $10 million from the reserves and a 2.3% interest bond that we then pay on every year. Now our police pension is 100% funded, and this saves the town $30 million. This is still saving us money today and will into the future. This allows us to provide our officers the competitive pay that they enjoy because we've addressed their pension safety needs. In addition to this, we were able to solve the golf losses, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that. They were losing $2 million a year when we came into office. By opening the courses to outside play, improving the irrigation, we've more than doubled the number of rounds played, and those golf courses are now operating in the black. Through doing this, we were able to take out a very low interest rate bond to be able to address improvements at the golf courses, the community center, and Naranja Park. My vision for Oro Valley in the future is that it continue to be the very best place to live, work, and play. In fact, we just recently received national recognition as the most livable place to retire in the United States. I continue to want to protect that for the residents who we have and the residents we will have in the future.
Thank you. Okay, Mark, you have 30 seconds to respond.
We're not on a fiscally sustainable path, and everything that we want for Oro Valley cannot be realized if we continue on this path. You don't have to be a meteorologist to see there are dark clouds on the horizon. When we talk about paying off one debt by incurring another debt, we're not strategically thinking. While that debt needed to be paid off, that's not the way that we should do it. We should not tap into our reserve fund or take out additional debt to pay off an existing debt. This is kind of what got us into this problem. I want the bright future of Oro Valley to be one that is sustainable in the long term, not with short-term fixes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, candidates. All right, Vice Mayor Barrett, you'll start this next subject. With Mayor Joe Winfield choosing not to seek re-election, Oro Valley will have new leadership in the mayor's office. So as a new mayor, what would be your top priority entering into this role?
Well, some of my vision and future is for public safety. One of the things that the council's currently working on is that we recently were able to expand the police facilities by purchasing for $4 million a building for our police to be able to go into for their new police station. They've outgrown some of their areas. A building from the ground up would have estimated cost around $40 million. We'll be working to rehab that building, and we currently have grants before the federal government to help us with the costs of rehabbing that building for our public safety. So one of my top priorities is to get that building designed and finished and to continue to provide the support for our officers that I have provided in the past and that the council has provided. And I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to wrap it up there. And I do have more priorities for the future, but that will be my top priority.
Okay, Mark, you have 90 seconds to respond.
Repeat the question, please.
The question is, as a new mayor, what would be your top priority entering into this role?
My top priority would be fiscal sustainability, is looking out at the horizon and seeing that our revenues and our expenditures are not running in a parallel track, which they should. And there should be a consistent separation between our revenues and our expenditures, and that's where we get at discretionary expenditures to do things that are extra. We can't do anything with public safety or parks or any of those things that we love about Oro Valley if we're not fiscally sustainable. We're not on that path right now, so that's one of the things I would attack. Leaders don't look at today. Today's largely irrelevant. The sun came up in the east and it'll set in the west. What leaders do is they imagine the future, and they look at the strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats in the future, and they address those things and imagine what the future looks like. I'm afraid the future is not as bright as the 30 years that I've spent in Oro Valley or why I chose to raise my family here. So I think we need strategic leadership. It's good to look at what we've done, but what are we doing? Where are we going? Those are the important factors, folks. Where we are is great. I want that greatness to continue into the future. Presently, I don't believe that we're on that path, and that's why I'm running for mayor, because I bring that strategic vision, that long-term fiscal management ability of managing multi-million-dollar budgets successfully and leading large organizations successfully. And that's what we need to do. Leadership is seen, not heard. We need a new path that is sustainable for into the future.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to hear some more specifics about exactly how we're going to achieve this fiscal responsibility or fiscal sustainability that's being mentioned. What or who is going to be cut? How are we going to be raising this exact revenue? Are we going to be developing more consistently, more high density, more urbanization? What are those specifics? But right now we have a sustainable, balanced budget, and our 5-year forecast is sustainable into the future. The revenues and expenditures are actually converging in our current budget. The only small shortfall we have is due to some delays in some construction projects, which should be coming online in the future.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mark, you'll have 60 seconds to respond to this question. What do you see as the biggest opportunity for Oro Valley over the next 4 years?
Excuse me, I think it's...
I would see the biggest opportunity is to look at responsible growth and how we grow. There's annexation opportunities where we could expand the envelope from which revenues are drawn. And we need to look at those opportunities, but realize that there are no silver bullets out there. If there was a silver bullet, we would have already fired it. What we need to be doing is looking at a lot of copper bullets and firing them with deliberation. There are opportunities out there for annexation, for growth, for tourism, to better market Oro Valley as a tourist destination and bring in enhanced revenues there. But we need to be strategically thinking about that. There isn't a single solution, folks. If there was, we'd already done that. What we need to be doing is looking at a long-term vision for Oro Valley and marketing the great place that it is. It's a safe place. And I don't think that we're effectively marketing that with respect to tourism or enhancing business opportunities here. Too many vacant storefronts. And there is a sentiment that Oro Valley is not environment or business friendly. That sentiment is reality in the business community. We need to change that.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, Vice Mayor Barrett, again, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for Oro Valley over the next 4 years? And you have 90 seconds.
I think some of the biggest opportunities that we have are bringing in some new retail. I've been very diligent in trying to protect commercial land so that we can have the land available to bring in that new retail. We have plans to be able to bring in opportunities such as car dealerships, big box stores, future retail and growth. We had 5 new businesses just this last month. We had 46 businesses open this past year, this prior year. We have quite a bit going on in Oro Valley that's very positive. And I also think there's opportunities to annex to the south. I appreciate the vote of confidence of all the things that were mentioned, because those are all the things that are in the strategic plan that the council is already working on. Every year, we work on those strategic opportunities, and all of those things, tourism, annexation, growth, retail development, every one of those is in the strategic plan, and we've been working on those, and if I'm elected, we will continue to work on and develop those opportunities moving into the future.
All right, thank you. Mark, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Annexation needs to happen. We need to expand the envelope from which revenues are drawn, but that's going to take some time. We need to be working on these things much earlier than we have been, and it's always amazing to me that in election years we're already doing all these things. We should have been doing these things many years ago, and that's what's got us into this space where the town staff is telling us that it's not a fiscally sustainable path, and we're kind of in denial of that. We need to really be thinking about that in the long term. Annexation is a thought, but also developing what we have. We have too many vacant storefronts, and we're not really addressing those. We're not addressing this perception that we're not business friendly, and we're not taking every opportunity to look at tourism and the bed tax and making this a destination place. We need to be taking much more concrete efforts in those directions.
Sorry, stop.
Oh, that was
the wrong sign.
30
You had the 30
seconds.
seconds. We had the wrong sign. That's okay.
See? It
All
wasn't,
right.
folks, it was
You've done
not
great
me.
all night. That's the first. That's all right. You've done an amazing job all night.
She
so
just kept
thank
telling
you.
me I had 30 seconds left,
Okay.
folks, so I was going to keep
All right.
going.
No, thank you. That's all right. She kept giving him more. All right. So, Vice Mayor Barrett, you're going to have 60 seconds to respond to this next topic, which is conversely, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing Oro Valley today, and how would you approach it as mayor?
I think that our biggest challenge is to make sure that we continue to represent the residents of Oro Valley. As we try to have these discussions about fiscal sustainability, about tourism, we want to make sure that we remain the resident-focused community that we are. We don't want to turn into Sedona, where they don't have any houses or any place for their residents to live. We don't want to turn into a community that isn't the reason that we all came here to live here. So I think the biggest challenge moving forward is to try and retain that character of who we are, why we all came here, what it is that we all love here, while we move forward and make progress. One example of where I feel like I've been able to help achieve this is at the Oro Valley Marketplace, where developers came in and asked for 5- and 6-story buildings. And among the council, I was one who asked them to bring it in at 2 and 3 stories within existing heights to maintain the view sheds and the character of Oro Valley. In these types of ways, we can continue to develop in a way that has the character of Oro Valley addressed, and that will be a challenge moving forward, and it's one I'd like to address.
Okay, Mark, you have 90 seconds to respond as to what is the biggest challenge facing Oro Valley today.
I think it's enhancing growth with still keeping the character of our community. I live here for a reason, and I've lived here for 3 decades for a reason. We're not Sedona, folks, and we're never going to be Sedona. That's an apple and an orange comparison, or maybe an apple and an orangutan comparison. We can embrace growth in a strategic way that makes sense. It's not one thing or another. It's not a dichotomous argument of whether you have growth that destroys your community and its fiber, or whether you have no growth. we can engage in responsible growth. To some degree, we've done a pretty good job of that in Oro Valley. I remember when the Narana Park site was a hot plant for asphalt. That's how far back I go. My granddaughter is attending Copper Creek Elementary in the kindergarten in the same classroom her mother was 37 years ago. I have no interest in destroying the fiber of this community by growing it. What I want to make sure is that we grow in a responsible way, in a way that enhances growth, that with adequate input from the citizens of the town to make sure that we embrace that quality and that sense of community we have that I love so very, very much, that sense of public safety, that sense of a community that is bonded together, where there's great community input into what we do and how we grow. We can embrace all these things without compromising our long-term sustainability.
Thank you, Mark. Vice Mayor Barrett, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Thank you, and thank you for mentioning Naranja Park. Naranja Park is one of the achievements that this council has created, of which I am most proud, along with the appointment of Chief Kara Riley, as well as the improvements at the community center. On this question of enhancing growth, it sounds like we're largely in agreement that we need quality growth that represents the residents of Oro Valley. So I would just like to ask that maybe we could all commit to not accept campaign donations from developers who then want to come before the council and ask for things that are going to give them millions of dollars. And that way we can really represent the residents of Oro Valley, no matter who's elected.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mark, you're going to start on this next topic, which is financial outlook. The town relies heavily on sales tax and state shared revenue, both of which have shown signs of leveling off. These are closely tied to economic activity and population trends, which have remained relatively flat. So the question is, how do you assess Oro Valley's financial outlook, and what is your plan to ensure long-term financial stability? And you have 60 seconds.
Well, I think that's very correct. We have seen a leveling off of those things because we're at a place where we really can't grow substantially anymore, because as other people pointed out, we're about 95% built out. The other problem with the nature of which we draw revenues is they're dependent upon the robust economy, sales tax, bed tax, tourism, and other things. And the cyclical nature of economy would tell us that there's going to be another economic downturn, which is going to significantly affect the very revenues that we rely upon. We need to thoughtfully expand the envelope from which these revenues are drawn, which are annexation and looking at infill of good commercial properties. It doesn't mean taking money from developers and plowing over desert in a nonsensical fashion. That is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about thinking about how we draw businesses into Oro Valley, how we expand the envelope from which revenues are drawn so that they become more consistent, more sustainable, and more predictable. And we need to do a much better job of that if we're going to have the long-term sustainability of Oro Valley, the Oro Valley that I love.
Thank you. All right, Vice Mayor Barrett, you have 90 seconds to respond to how do you assess Oro Valley's financial outlook, and what is your plan for long-term financial stability?
Yes, thank you. We do a 5-year forecast every single year in the town of Oro Valley, and we develop our budgets according to our strategic plans, the general plan that's voted on by voters, and the vision of that 5-year forecast to try and make sure that we're aligned. There is no fiscal cliff coming there is no fiscal cliff coming. We have the two lines are balanced for the next 5 years. That's just not the case. We are able to sustain the needs and the core needs of the town. One of the things that I will do is prioritize. I'll be prioritizing public safety. I'll be prioritizing roads. I'll be prioritizing critical infrastructure. Some of the things that got pushed off of the budget into the future were things that I don't think the town of Oro Valley needs, like a skate park improvement that's more than what we already have. We have a great skate park. We don't have to expand it further. Those types of things being pushed off and saying, we don't necessarily need to do those, that's okay. As long as we're making sure we've got the public safety funded, the roads funded, the top priorities of the residents of Oro Valley being funded. That's critically important to make sure that that happens. And I do think that we need to look at how we can make sure to increase our revenues through bringing in more retail, especially and annexing to the south. And I think as we do that, we can create a really nice and sustainable community.
Okay, thank you. Mark, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Folks, if everything were rosy, we wouldn't have been talking about new taxes recently, would we? But we were. We had a very dynamic discussion, and there were tax proposals to increase revenues, which would be largely irrelevant if we weren't a little bit worried about the future. I'm not interested in whether the future of Oro Valley is sustainable for 5 years. God willing, I'll still be in Oro Valley 20 years from now, and so will my family. I want to ensure that we're sustainable for a long time, not for 5 years or a snapshot. Town staff has consistently told the elected leaders that we're not on a sustainable path. We should pay attention to that.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Barrett, you'll have 60 seconds to respond to this topic. A strong business community is critical to the town's long-term stability and overall health. Business investment is often influenced by how predictable and supportive the local environment is. The question is, what would you do to ensure that Oro Valley is a place where businesses feel welcome to invest, expand, and operate?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to address that one of the things that I did was vote against all new taxes so that there weren't additional taxes on businesses in Oro Valley or in areas that we may want to annex towards. Secondly, I'd just like to point out that I think there's a difference here. Sometimes when we talk about business, some people are referring to more housing, like developer businesses, like apartments, and some are referring to retail businesses. One thing that's really important to understand about our budget is that if we have new housing come in, meaning more residents to serve, then that housing without new retail actually can harm our budget. So I think that it's really important that we make a distinguishing difference between those. So in terms of retail and that type of investment that helps our budgets, I'd like to continue some of the programs like Adopt a Business that our Oro Valley Police has done, like Mayor Winfield's business visits that he's consistently performed. We have a great relationship with our local business, and we support our Chamber of Commerce, which is uncommon for communities to do.
Okay, Mark, you have 90 seconds to respond to how would you ensure Oro Valley is a place where businesses feel welcome to invest, expand, and operate?
Well, folks, we continually hear that the perception is that Oro Valley is not business friendly. And we can deny that perception, but perception is largely reality. So one of the things that we ought to be doing is reaching out to the business community when we aren't successful in developing new retail or doing some growth that would match the culture of our community and asking them why. I noticed that continuously there are big box stores around Orange Grove and River that are filled. I know because one of the big box stores became Lava Island where my grandkids play. So they're doing something that we're not doing. I have a very good relationship with Mayor John Post, and he's endorsed my candidacy for mayor. I would reach out to Moran and say, are you doing something different from us? Obviously, the community is a little different, but what are you doing that's different? And how can we enhance the businesses coming into Oro Valley, and not just blindly any business, but businesses that match the culture and the ambiance of our community? I don't want to do anything that would destroy or degrade the quality of life that I've enjoyed here for 3 decades. But we've got to be more strategically focused at looking at what is that perception and how can we do that. And as a leader and as a mayor, I've known as a leader from being a sheriff and a senior executive commander that you got to get out in front of this. And I think the mayor has a tremendous ability to market this town, talk about public safety, go out and reach with the business community and find out how can I enhance you. And we also have got to stop waiting for somebody to knock on our door. We've got to be out knocking on their doors. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations on your endorsement from mayors outside of Oro Valley. I'm seeking the endorsement of the people who live in the town of Oro Valley and the residents of Oro Valley. I agree that we need to go out and market Oro Valley as a great place to be and to live and to do business. In fact, we've received national recognition as one of the very best places to come and live and retire. When I met with local businesses recently, one of the reasons they locate in Oro Valley is because they live here, because they love it here, because they love the community, because of the public safety. So enhancing those kind of things and being positive about our community and its state will help us market it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question, Mark, you'll start. Oro Valley is nearing build-out with limited land available for future expansion, which places greater importance on decisions around land use, zoning, and annexation. Question is, How would you evaluate potential annexation opportunities, and what criteria would guide your decisions around zoning and future land use?
Thank you. I was formerly the supervisor of the Planning and Research Unit of Tucson Police Department. And one of the things I did was actually evaluate annexations. They would come to me and say, we're thinking about annexing this property to the southeast of Tucson. We need an analysis of how much that's going to cost. So you look at this, and there's got to be an ROI on an annexation. You're only going to get, if you're doing housing, you're only going to get state shared revenues. So you have to make sure that those revenues and the construction tax are sufficient to take care of the service demand. And in the case of these annexations that I've evaluated in the past, I would come back to senior management and say, well, we need 1.2 police officers, a police car, and these things. And honestly, it doesn't wash. It will not pay for itself. So we have to think of something else. We have to think about zoning and embracing the qualities of our town without compromising those things to make sure that our zoning and where our businesses are not hampered in the way that they want to develop. Some other people have mentioned that. But I have actually reviewed annexation efforts in the past.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Barrett, your response to decisions around zoning and future land use.
Yes, thank you. Under this council's leadership, we've actually annexed twice, which was more than had been annexed in the previous 8 years. So we're an annexation-friendly council when it makes sense to do so. And I think that Mark actually hit the nail on the head in terms of sometimes the ROI doesn't pay off, but we're going to look for strategic areas where it will pay off. Another thing about my approach to land use and annexation is we have a lot of commercial land that people are coming forward and asking that it be rezoned into apartments and other rental kind of residential. That's not necessarily a problem unless it doesn't come with new commercial. So one of the bright lines that I've been fighting for and that I've had on the council is that new development for housing must come with new commercial. And that's not always something that developers want to hear. They don't always want to build 50% commercial on the land. But it is possible to grow in a way that's sustainable. And the fact that we're getting close to build out just highlights how important each and every decision is. We're not just trying to race to the very first thing that we can get. We want to end up with a quality community, a community we all love and are proud of, the kind of community that we all moved here for and that we all love. And so zoning decisions have to be approached with that in mind, and it's even more important when the land becomes more scarce than it's ever been in the past.
Thank you. Mark, you have 30 seconds to respond.
When I moved into Copper Creek in 1993, shortly thereafter, somebody knocked on my door, and they said, would you like to be part of Oro Valley? I looked around, I said, I thought I was. Well, I was in a donut hole at that time. It's completely surrounded by Oro Valley, but I lived in the county, much to my chagrin. But you know what we did? We marketed that very well. I couldn't look out my front window and not see a smiling police officer. We marketed that annexation very well. And as we look forward, we need to manage these annexations in the same manner. Water use is going to be a tremendous issue in future annexations as well.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Barrett, you'll start with this topic you already touched upon, and that's housing. Housing affordability and availability are impacting workforce, economic growth, and long-term sustainability across the region, and are often some of the most debated issues in our community. So the question to you is, what role should Oro Valley play in housing, and how would you approach decisions around different housing types and development? And you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. The very first thing I would do is remember that I'm a resident representative. And I would always approach those decisions with the mind for what makes sense for our current Oro Valley residents in terms of what type of housing makes sense. I would be supportive of some owner-occupied middle housing. Unfortunately, we don't get very many of those. Our residents have indicated in the general plan that that's something that they would support. As I've indicated, I would also be supportive of some housing that is in character of Oro Valley that brings in new retail with it. So those are some of those things. But Oro Valley's average home price is actually consistent with the average home price in the United States as a whole. And we're part of a larger community. We're one community in terms of a greater region. So we need to look at it from a broader perspective as well, and not assume that every single person can live on the 5% of land that we have left. So that's how I would approach it, is with those kind of wise, resident-principled decisions.
Okay, thank you. Mark, you have 90 seconds to respond.
Well, I think it's difficult to define what affordable housing means and the ability to which we have to engage in affordable housing because we're 95% built out currently. So I think somewhat the marketplace will drive this, and I think it is a challenge. I know it's a challenge because we don't see a lot of young families settling in Oro Valley anymore. My family grew up in Copper Creek, and my granddaughter attends school there. Well, that school's closing because we've not been able to keep pace with drawing families in because housing is largely unaffordable. And there may be some undeniable realities to that. It's just the nature of the community and the amount of land that we have to develop, and the marketplace drives a lot of these things. But I think key to any of this is that we don't want to compromise the character and the quality of Oro Valley. I don't want to see small houses and poorly defined what constitutes affordable housing as part of Oro Valley that destroys its character, that destroys the quality of life that we have here. And we need to be thinking in terms of how we encourage affordable housing, but also realize that that's probably not in the cards for Oro Valley as it's most often defined. If you look at what the city of Tucson defines as affordable housing, I don't think that's something that we want here in Oro Valley. I don't see that in our future. So there may be some realities that affordable housing, as it's captioned right now in the marketplace, is just not something in the future for Oro Valley as we see it right now.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Vice Mayor Barrett, you have 30 seconds to respond on the topic of housing.
Thank you. I don't know that there's a whole lot else to say. I mean, we have 5% of the land left, and we're going to make wise decisions about what we do with that land that tries to meet the needs of our residents. That's just the bottom line. I will say that it's a misconception that we don't have families in Oro Valley. If you ever go out to Naranja Park, or you go to the pickleball courts, or you go to the community center pool or the aquatic center pool, there are tons of children and families in our community. In fact, our most recent census showed that the amount of children in Oro Valley is equal to the amount of children in the nation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mark, you'll start this next topic. Water availability is not just a local issue, but a regional one that directly impacts growth, development, and long-term planning across southern Arizona. Question is, how do you assess Oro Valley's current approach to water, and how should water availability factor into future decisions? You have 60 seconds.
Well, currently, I think we're doing an excellent job. Our water use is less than other communities of comparable size, and that's great. But if you're following the news at all, there's a lot of discussions in the Southwest about cap allocation and how that will be allocated in the future. I think there's some really significant challenges with respect to water use in the desert Southwest. If we're not thinking there is, I can't help us. But what I want us to think about is looking at where water use may be in 5 years and starting to chart a course to ameliorate those conditions that are going to be real. It's going to be less water and more expensive water. There's just no way around that in the desert Southwest. Our cap allocation is likely to be cut. We're going to have challenges with using reclaimed water. Our portable water use has got to be made much more sensible in order for us to be a sustainable community. This is not something unique to Oro Valley. It's the whole desert Southwest that is going to face a significant challenge in the not distant future with water use.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Vice Mayor Barrett, you have 90 seconds to respond on the topic of water.
Thank you. This was adequately addressed by the previous forum. The Town of Oro Valley Water Utility does an absolutely excellent job. I would like to address a couple of concerns I heard from residents. Our golf courses, most of them are on reclaimed water, so I don't anticipate any problems with keeping the golf courses that are on reclaimed water and keeping the golf courses moving forward going into the future. I don't think the water challenges will be affecting that in the near future. I want to talk a little bit about annexation. It's been mentioned this 880 land that we have out to the west of us. This land would rely entirely on Central Arizona Project water. And we will not get more water rights if we annex this land. Our set of water rights is set. The water that you have access to and your water rights will be reduced if we build the 3,200 homes that were proposed on that land, and your water bills will go up. So that's why with annexation, we need to be very careful, and we need to make sure that we have the water that's available for the community, putting the residents and their needs first. Our CAP allocation, we currently use only a fraction of it, and we store water out in other places. The new pipelines that we have will allow us to bring in 4,000 more acre feet into the town of Oro Valley. This will help us, but it is really important that when we ask our water and our residents to conserve water, they don't want to stop turning off the fountain or stop the water fountain when they're brushing their teeth just so we can annex 3,200 more homes.
Okay, thank you. Mark, you have 30 seconds to respond.
We're absolutely correct that building another 3,000 homes is going to be a real drain on water, and we need to be thoughtful about that because water use is going to be a very extreme issue in the desert Southwest and not distant future. I think with respect to golf, we've done a pretty good job of turf reduction at El Conquistador, and we're using less water there because we're more sensible about that. But this water use is a complex issue that's going to require a long-term strategic approach and a strategic fix. It's not going to be fixed overnight.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Barrett, you'll start on this next topic. As mayor, you'll be representing Oro Valley within the broader Southern Arizona region. The question is, how do you view Oro Valley's role in the region, and what is your approach to working with regional partners on shared challenges and opportunities?
Yes, thank you. I think the key is that I know who I represent. I represent the residents of Oro Valley. That's been a bright line for me for the past 8 years. With my background in law, I have a very representative mindset, and I approach every day as an elected official of you, knowing that I represent you. I will approach and attend every meeting with regional representatives and leaders with your interests in mind. I will keep you at the forefront of my mind in every conversation. I will develop relationships as I have in the past, but I will not allow those relationships to dictate what's best for the citizens of Oro Valley, and I will always have your interests in mind as I develop those relationships and work collaboratively with the community.
Okay, thank you. Mark, you have 90 seconds to respond to Oro Valley's role in the region and how you'll work with our regional partners.
Well, folks, obviously, serving as our sheriff for 4 years, I had to work with regional partners. As the chief law enforcement officer of the county, I had to work with all the municipal police departments in a cooperative effort to ensure public safety, not just in the county, but in the entirety of the county, which include all the municipalities associated with that. So it's a role I'm very familiar with and very comfortable with. We need to be out attending all the meetings and being visible. Leadership is seen, it's not heard. And so we need to be out in front of that. But always of chief importance is representing the people of Oro Valley and making sure that our voice is a strong voice at the table. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So we need to be at the table on these discussions, whether it be RTA, public safety, or any of these things. We need to be at the table, and that takes strong leadership. If you look back for decades, I've proven that I have that strong leadership. As sheriff of this county, we were a strong leader in many aspects of border safety and public safety throughout this county. So it's a role that I'm very comfortable in. But we need to be sure that as we're out in that role, that our chief responsibility is to the citizens of Oro Valley, and to make sure that that leadership is tantamount to hearing their voices heard, to make sure that we maintain the quality of life that we have here in Oro Valley.
Okay, thank you, Mark. You have 30 seconds to respond.
When I first ran for office, the former mayor, Hiremath, used to tell Mayor Winfield, you can't do this because I have regional relationships and you don't, in these debates that was mentioned. Mayor Winfield made the point that the relationship is with the town of Oro Valley. It isn't with a person. When we're in that relationship, you're the representative of the town of Oro Valley. Mayor Winfield has been able to follow through on that. In fact, he's been elected the chair
of the Pima Association of Governments and of the RTA board multiple times. And I agree with that philosophy. The relationship is with the town of Oro Valley, and the responsibility is to the Oro Valley residents.
Thank you. Okay, Mark, you'll start on our next subject, which I know is important to you and everybody in this room, and that's public safety. Oro Valley has long been recognized as one of the safest communities in the state, and at the same time, expectations and the cost of policing continue to rise. So the question to you both is, how do you evaluate current public safety services, and what priorities would you set as mayor? And you have 60 seconds.
Well, currently, and people can say this very often, but we can't hear it often enough, we have a great police department. We maintain excellent public safety, one of the safest communities in Arizona. It's really easy to say that you support public safety. I gave my life to it. I gave my life to public safety. So I'm in a position that's somewhat unique in that I not only understand what public safety needs, but I have the capacity to more effectively communicate that because I understand it. I started as a police officer in 1981. A lot has changed since then. Law enforcement's become more technologically based and more expensive. We need to make sure that when we train a police officer in Oro Valley, which costs about $100,000, that we're not training them to go to Queen Creek, that our pay is competitive, and that we not only pay is only one element of it. I could talk about this for about 60 minutes because this was my life for a very long time. Pay is one element. We need to be competitive in our pay, but we need to create a culture in the department that entices people to stay here, because I don't want to train somebody to have them here for a few years.
Okay, Vice Mayor Barrett, you have 90 seconds to respond on the subject of public safety.
Yes, thank you. Thankfully, I have a record of 8 years of how I would respond and how I would prioritize public safety. And the reality is, I've provided every need that our public safety officers have needed. They've received their pay plans that they've asked for. They've received their new officers that they've asked for. Under our leadership on the council, we appointed Chief Kara Riley. She's appointed now the president of the Arizona Chiefs of Police. She's one of the best police chiefs in the state of Arizona. We don't need someone else to come in and tell Chief Kara Riley how to do her job. We just need a council who supports her. And she has that now, and she'll continue to have it in the future under my leadership. Yeah, I'm gonna stop there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mark, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Folks, you know that we had an MOU impasse. We had a room full of angry people that should have never happened, but it did. If I wanted to be a chief of police, folks, I would be one. I have the credentials to go out and be a chief of police anywhere in the country that I want to be. I have no desire to micromanage Chief Riley, and I think she knows that. That is not my role. My role is to effectively communicate what public safety needs and to make sure that this community stays the safe place that it is. That's where my expertise lies, and I will not micromanage the police department.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Barrett, you'll have 60 seconds to respond to this topic. Oro Valley has made significant investments in parks, recreation, and community amenities. The question is, how should the town approach future investments? How do you determine which community investments take priority, and how do you balance those long-term financial sustainability?
Thank you. Forgive me, but I'm going to use my time to come back and answer the public safety question, and I'll yield on the Parks and Rec. I think I've got a record there. One of the keys with the public safety and the MOU situation is that our officers in Oro Valley have a step plan. They're the only ones who have a step plan. The budget was balanced in the Sheriff's Department by removing the step plan. So I have concerns for that, and under my leadership, our public safety would continue to be supported, and they would be able to have the plans that they want. With regard to Parks and Recreation, significant investments have been made there. The community is enjoying those significant investments, and I look forward to continuing that moving forward. And as funds are available, there's small amounts of progress that can be made, but we don't need a big overhaul.
Thank you. Okay, Mark, you have 90 seconds to respond to the topic of community investments, and how do you plan to balance those long-term with financial sustainability?
Well, I've been in Oro Valley for more than 30 years, and we didn't really have very many parks. And I'm gratified that we have the Dorana Park and that we've developed parks where my grandchildren go to play. By the way, the Dorana Park is the yellow park, according to my granddaughter. That's what she calls it. That's how we know we're going to the yellow park. We need to keep doing these things to attract young families, which we're not doing. That's why Copper Creek is closing. There's not the student enrollment there that there should be. When my kids went there, I think there were 700 or 800 kids at that school. My granddaughter will not be able to attend that school because we didn't sustain it. And that's heartbreaking to her because she thought she was going to go to the same school that her mom and her uncles and aunts went to. We need to balance all these things with making sure that Oro Valley remains fiscally sustainable. And I hate to beat this to death, but I think that we're not on the path where we're going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to sustain good parks and good police service if we continue on the path that we are. So we need to be thinking about enhancing those revenues so that we can sustain these things and making significant investments in our town that enhance the quality of life. We've seen in other communities where when we don't do that, it's a slippery slope. It starts very gradually. And then one day you wake up and you don't have good roads, you don't have a fiscally sustainable town, you don't have good parks, and you don't have good police service. I've seen that happen in the city of Tucson. I'll never let that happen here.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Barrett, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Thank you. I also love Naranja Park and the amenities at the community center, and I'm so glad your grandchildren call it the Yellow Park because the signs from Team Yellow that had Naranja Park pictures on it when we ran in the last 4 years really helped because when we were able to complete the build-out of Naranja Park, we were in the middle of that in the last election. So completing the build-out of Naranja Park has been absolutely wonderful for our community. Residents thank me for it all the time, and I thank them because of their support and their taxpayer dollars who go to fund it, and I really appreciate all of your support for that.
Okay, thank you. We are on our last question of the evening, and the topic to mark, you'll have 60 seconds. Tourism and destination experiences are part of Oro Valley's current economic strategy. There have also been community-led discussions around arts and cultural amenities, including a potential performing arts center. So the question to you is, what role should tourism and these types of investments play in Oro Valley's future?
When we think about expanding the envelope from which revenues are drawn, tourism has got to be a part of that equation. If you look at the sunset on Push Ridge, why aren't people from Minnesota coming here to see that? I mean, it's beautiful. My wife and I often talk about we fail to look at the beautiful mountain views as often as we should. Tourism's got to be part of that, and we've got to more aggressively market the beautiful quality of life that we have here. We have great golf courses, great parks, public safety, which is another thing people think about. I was in Rome not long ago, and it's really not a very safe place. It's a wonderful place. The Vatican was cool, but it was not a very safe place. So we've got to market Oro Valley as a safe place with beautiful views, great parks, and a good destination. Performing arts is going to be a part of that equation. It's not the silver bullet, but it's something that we need to think about that other communities have successfully integrated into that whole realm of how we draw in more revenues. And I think a performing arts center may have a place in that.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Barrett, you have 90 seconds to respond to the topic of economic impact of tourism in the arts.
Yes, thank you. I'm so happy to hear that we could market Oro Valley on some of the things that this council has developed and that we have fought to protect, our views and our parks and recreation systems. We are currently developing a tourism plan, and we're putting a lot of effort into that. The tourism needs to be resident-centric, and our consultant who was working to develop our plan acknowledged that and said that investment should be things that both residents can benefit from, as well as tourists who come to Oro Valley. One of the best ways to improve tourism is to pick the low-hanging fruit, to make some small improvements at the margins. But we always have to keep our residents in mind and that bright line. We live in a state that doesn't allow us to regulate Airbnbs. We're forbidden from regulating Airbnbs. If we go too hardcore on tourism, we could have even more Airbnbs and less opportunities for our residents and our citizens to live in it. We don't want to be that. We want to be a community. You know, we don't want to have every single thing. We want to be a community. We want to develop tourism on the margins. We want to improve what we have, and we want to keep it resident focused. And we're working towards developing a plan that will do just some of those things. Tourism has a role to play, but it isn't the be-all and end-all of our community, and the residents are very important in that.
Thank you. Okay, Mark, you have 30 seconds to respond to the topic of tourism and arts.
We can embrace tourism without compromising the quality of life here. It's not an all or nothing equation, and it does need to be resident-centered. But we don't do probably as good a job of marketing Oro Valley as we should. We've got a brand new tourism council that we just established, and we need to give them guidance about how to go out and really court these people to come to Oro Valley. I've been astounded when I've had family come here and they're just taken back by the beauty of this town. We need to market that, especially to people living in Minnesota in the winter. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, candidates, for your responses to all our questions tonight. We're going to finish with our closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute, and we will start with Mark Napier.
Well, thank you folks for being here this evening. I really appreciate it. My friends, residents, I'm not a politician. I'm running for political office, but I'm about the most apolitical guy I know. What I am is a public servant. I've dedicated my life to public service. If you want to, the best predictor of future performance is past performance. And I'd ask you to look back to 1981 when I started as a police officer, joined the United States military, all the way to present. The best predictor of future performance is past performance. I love this town. I don't need a job. I'm not looking for a $12,000 a year job, and I don't need to be mayor for my ego. My ego's needs were long since satisfied. I'm a highly decorated police officer. I was the sheriff of our county. I am running for mayor for a singular reason. I don't believe that we're currently on the correct path. That doesn't mean that mayor and council are bad people. I don't believe that. I don't believe we're on the correct path. I bring a certain skill set and abilities to this job to ensure that we have a bright future for Oro Valley because I love this place and it's my home.
Thank you. All right, Vice Mayor Melanie Barrett, your closing remarks.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you all being here tonight and hearing a little bit more about the accomplishments of the council and my years on the council, as well as my vision for the future. We've heard a lot about fiscal sustainability, but we haven't heard a lot of specifics about what type of growth or revenue is intended to bring in, what type of things are going to be cut from the budget, and if it's going to be balanced the same way that budgets have been balanced in the past. We haven't heard those specifics. I have 8 years on this council. I have a record of the things that have been a priority to me. It has been my absolute honor to serve this community for the past 8 years. There is not a day that goes by, as my family will attest, that I do not think about this community, that I do not think about each and every one of you and how I am representing you. I have talents and thoughts available to provide to the community, and if it's the community's will that I continue to provide that service, then it would be my honor to receive your vote and to be able to continue to serve this beautiful community that we all love.
Okay, thank you, candidates, for your participation tonight. It's been my pleasure to guide our conversation. I want to thank Kristen Sharp, the CEO of the Oro Valley Chamber of Commerce, for including me and our candidates tonight. And I know you have a few words to close out the evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeannine.
First of all, thank you to these wonderful mayoral candidates up here. And again, one more big round of applause to all of our candidates tonight. Thank you, Jeannine, for the terrific job you did up here moderating our discussion. Yes. And I'm going to have you clap one more time for these wonderful ladies in the front row who were doing our timekeeping. Susan Swan of Swan Pilates, our chamber board chair, and business development director Leah with our chamber. So thank you all for being here tonight. Most of all, thank you for showing up and for caring about this community. This forum was recorded and it will be posted to the Oro Valley Chamber YouTube site. And that's all we have for you tonight. So have a safe and wonderful evening. Good night.